Recording has started. All right, y'all. This week we're gonna continue our discussion about assumptions, but we're going to basically say, what if we can't meet these criteria of linearity, normality, homoscedasticity, or independent cell observation? Generally, if linearity and normality are not met, and homoscedasticity to some degree, isn't assumed, then oftentimes that means that our analysis may be very skewed just because of the fact that, it's not a normal distribution of all the different types of measurements of error and things like that. There's not this kind of broad, widespread distribution. What if we only have a study size of like 20 or 30 things, right? Remember how we've been using averages. Averages and means, those are the same. They are what's really driving a lot of the linearity because we're taking the difference from the mean, right? And that's how we measure standard deviation and everything else. Well, if we have a very small study size, the mean isn't really meaningful at all because we just don't have a lot of different values. We don't have a lot of different people taking the study, and everything can be shifted a lot. There's just a lot of it's a little bit more volatile. Let's just put it that way. And so when we can't meet those assumptions, that's what we're really going to focus on this week is what's called non-parametric statistics. And what we mean by non-parametric statistics is that we do not make the same assumptions like we do in the linear model. Okay? The linear model is the one that we talked about last week, where normality, homoscedasticity, all of those things are assumed. So we don't assume a normal distribution, but rather we assume a continuous distribution, which just means that all the data lie on the same plane, right? What happens here is with smaller samples, you might have outliers because you only have like 20 people. One person might score 100 on the test and everybody else gets like 60 or 70, right? And so when we see smaller samples and we know the distribution is not normal, then the effects of outliers can be really big, right? It might really affect our overall analysis. So parametric means, of course, it's referring back to parameters. We're not making the assumption of our entire population. So thus the meaning behind non-parametric is really not making population assumptions. So what are we doing? We have a couple of tools at our disposal. And I would say that this is probably the first, a little bit more in-depth statistical tool discussion /lecture /exercise week that we're going to have. I wanted to introduce to you the linear model first because it is what drives the majority of our statistical testing. We assume that things fall on some sort of linear relationship. However, we kind of have to take a step back at the same time and say, when that doesn't happen, how do we address it? And I'd rather do that now than later on, because I think this will also introduce you to different ways of thinking about statistical tests, okay? Because we're going to do statistical tests that are very similar, both as parametric and as non-parametric tests, okay? Different tests, but they measure essentially the same type of scenario, okay? Just one scenario under non-parametric is assumption-free. The other one makes assumptions about linearity, normality, that sort of thing, okay? So the first test I want you to learn about this week is called the Mann-Whitney test. The Mann-Whitney test. You might see it referred to as the Mann-Whitney U test. This test compares two distinct groups on one outcome. So thinking about where we might see that sort of thing, you might have two different sections of a class, right? What if I taught this class to two different groups of students? Did section A do overall better on the first exam than section B, right? The one outcome is the score on the test. The two distinct groups are the two sections of students. No student, remember how we talked about independence of observation still being important here, no section, even in this non-parametric test, has overlapping students. Kara, as much as she wanted to be in this class twice, Zoom wouldn't allow that, right? Does that make sense? Now, the parametric model of this kind of test is called the t-test. Has anybody ever heard of the t-test? Yeah, the t-test essentially compares two distinct groups on one outcome, but it makes the assumption of normality, homoscedasticity, linearity, right? So we have the Mann-Whitney to do two different groups. We also have what's called the Kruskal-Wallis, and this compares three or more distinct groups, okay? Three or more. It's interesting how you can use the Kruskal-Wallis to measure two distinct groups, and generally you get the same outcome, but you cannot use the Mann-Whitney test to compare three or more distinct groups, okay? It doesn't go both ways, both times. So the Kruskal-Wallis is looking at three or more distinct groups on one outcome. So what if we had three sections of this course, how did they all do compared to each other, right? Very distinct groups, no one's in the same section, or no one's in multiple sections, and so we can measure that kind of an outcome. Have you ever heard of analysis of variance? ANOVA? A little bit? Yeah. This is the non-parametric version of that, okay? And we'll get to that. The next test is called the Wilcoxon signed rank test, okay? Wilcoxon signed ranks. What this measures is it compares the outcome of two related groups. So if you think about this class, right? This class takes, let's just say, a pre-test and a post-test. Well, that pre-test and the post-test, they both have the same population, right? So the outcome is based on two related groups being the same class, just pre-test versus post-test. And so that allows us to see, was there a difference, hopefully, improvement and that sort of thing. And so Friedman's test compares three or more groups on essentially the same outcome over time. So we're not going to get into Friedman's today, but you're welcome to play around with it. The ones I really want you to bear in mind and really learn and know, especially for the next exam, are the Mann-Whitney, Kruskal-Wallis, and Wilcoxon. Okay. Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge. Okay. What is this? Anybody ever seen this before?
It's like a windy road.
What is it? What does it stand for? Anybody know?
I don't know. We had to read this in social study.
What's
like
that?
symbols. This is like we had to study like symbols in social study when we were in school. Like curved road or something like that.
No, it's not a curved road. Good try, y'all. Y'all really don't know what this is. I promise you do. Every single person knows what this is. With that, I mean, you may not know what this specifically is, but you know what it is now? No? Don't know? Kara?
Is that some kind of prehistoric Amazon logo?
It is the original Amazon logo. Original Amazon logo. I like it. I wish they would have kept it, honestly. I don't really like the little arrow. Whatever.
I like the new one.
Okay. Yeah, to each their own. So, whatever. Have you ever designed a state flag, Kara? I think not. Did I tell you all about that? I don't think I did. Yeah, I was a semifinalist in a state flag design competition. Not a logo competition, thank God. But anyway, this is the original Amazon logo. This is chart that shows you. This is why we do charts before we get much deeper into the class, also, because we're going to throw some up here. Look at e-commerce over time, from about 1999 all the way up through 2007-ish, and then look at non-e-commerce sales. So these are sales that are classified as e-commerce versus non-e-commerce. Look at that. I mean, like they completely converge and then diverge, right? Non-e-commerce. I mean, I don't know how much do y'all buy things online, either through Amazon or somewhere else? About what proportion of your household bought purchasing, right? Not counting groceries. Take that out of the mix.
Then a bunch. Yeah, much more. I'd say close to 75%.
Wow. How about the rest of y'all?
I mean, even including groceries, because I do a lot of our grocery shopping actually online. So we're at, I'd say somewhere in the range of 50 to 75. Yeah.
Rosemary and Amanda, feel free to chime in too. During the pandemic, and like what I mean is pandemic proper. Okay, that means I wasn't at work. I was working from home. So March of 20 through July of 20. About half of everything we bought came to the door on an Amazon truck, pretty much. But it's 45% Rosemary says. Yep. Yeah. So what was that amount of online shopping 10 years ago? Probably not the same. What do you notice? What do you notice about this chart? And I'm gonna pick on Kara just because she had a cat show up a little bit ago. Do you see the cat? Do you see all the cat?
She's hiding now.
That's okay. Yeah, no, but I mean, I thought I saw her, right? And this chart. Yeah. What in the heck? I mean, these are some fat cats right here.
That's
but
Christmas.
what's going? Go ahead, Kara.
That's got to be Christmas.
Holidays.
Yeah.
Right. Fourth quarter retail sales. Yeah, big jumps every year. So even though non-e-commerce sales have started to decline, they still get that fourth quarter bump, right? Same thing with e-commerce, except look at how much like flat, or I'm not flat, but I mean just the rise in e-commerce has actually minimized fourth quarter to some degree. So what happened? What happened? I'll show that, and then I'll show that. What happened to make all this happen right here? And this chart is not purely Amazon, by the way. This is e-commerce in general.
Well, I think for the family I was in, we got DSL around 2005. So we got better internet. And awesome. We stopped getting like disconnected when someone called the house. So that would have been a big thing, like infrastructure wise.
Yeah, yeah. Or someone picked up the phone and all they heard, right? Yeah. Okay. So internet connectivity got better. Anything else happen around 2005? I put this in the slides, but I think I've already got. Yeah, there it is. So we'll go back. There you go. So all this kind of started to happen around 4, 5, 6, right? This is Amazon's like Wikipedia page, which Wikipedia, it's generally well curated nowadays. So history of Amazon. I went down here to this timeline just kind of see what was going on, and look at that. From about 94 is when they were founded. They have super saver shipping, but moving beyond books, right? But then around February 2005, first quarter 2005, y'all see that? What happened?
They made our lives way too easy.
Prime time
Yeah.
is what I call it.
Yes.
We don't live in the 21st century. We live in prime time now. And eventually maybe one day we'll live in post-prime. You'll see me tonight refer to things as pre-prime, prime time, that sort of thing. But yeah, look at that. Holy crap. 2005, first quarter, it just takes off after that. And this is all of e-commerce, but other places have followed the Amazon model, right? If you're a member of Walmart or Kroger, whatever, plus Super Saver something, you get free delivery or free pickup, whatever. It's quite interesting. It's really quite interesting how technology, of course, can show us, bring, like Kara said, change our lives forever. So why are we talking about Amazon? Why are we talking about Amazon? And there's your logo, Kara. Are you happy? Well, I wanted to use Amazon, or at least e-commerce and non-e-commerce retail sales, as an example to show us what we can do when we don't have a lot of data points, okay? When we don't have a lot of data points. We don't have every single sale. I don't want every single sale that Amazon or any other retailer has done over the last 10 years. What we do have, and what you have on Canvas, if y'all want to go out there and grab it while we're in class as your own little demo, your own little example file. What we do have is the amount of e-commerce and non-e-commerce sales in millions. We have them by quarter, so first, second, third, fourth quarter, and we also have them by year. Look familiar, right? Because I created the chart using that same data. So I know what year, I know what quarter, we know what category the sales are, as well as how much, right? And I've classified that data myself. I went in and added another variable called period, and that period is either pre-prime or prime time, okay? And I can say prime time a lot because Coach Prime is at my former state now. Do y'all know Deion Sanders? He's the head football coach at Jackson State in Mississippi. So all I've heard from last year is prime time from folks down there. So, all right. And Mamta, thank you. I just saw your chat. Y'all, Mamta said she recently completed a Wiki Scientist course, so she would say Wikipedia is a reliable source. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's gotten better.
Scientist now.
What's that, Laura?
No, I said I'm a wiki scientist now.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations, Samantha.
Thanks.
Do you want to put a link to whatever program you completed so that we can share it with the group? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. It's through APS Physics. Very cool. So all that to say, we're going to be using this as examples for me to show you how to run non-parametric statistical tests in SPSS. Okay? Non-parametric statistical tests. This is our example. I had to reel you in. First I had to visually connect you back to the story by making you realize you don't remember the Amazon logo. Right? Pictures help. So what we're going to do is open up SPSS. I'm going to try to use a Porto, and if it doesn't work, I'll try to use my local version. Hopefully it won't cut us off or anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the Explore tool. We're going to use the Explore tool to give us some data along with some plots, so we can kind of visualize and see some statistical tests related back to our data overall. So just first off, we always want to explore our data, see what we see. So actually, I've got the data already open, just so you can kind of check it out with me. Again, I mentioned to you earlier, it's really not complicated. In fact, there's only 34 items, right? Not a lot of statistical significance in a parametric test could be really determined based on just 34 items. Usually you have to have population sizes of greater than 50 or so. But here, what we've got is, I'll expand it all out for you. So our e-commerce sales in millions, non-e-commerce sales in millions, and you can watch it as time goes by. This number is going to keep going down, and the other number is going to keep going up, right? We know that was going to happen because we saw the chart. Q is the quarter, whatever quarter of the year, and then year represents, of course, the year itself. And so then what I've got is a time value. So time 1 all the way through time 34. This is just to help us keep that on the right track of time. If you tried to plot this information in some cases, because it's quarter or year, you might not actually be able to do that very cleanly. So using the time variable keeps everything on the straight line. Does that make sense? It gives you that horizontal axis. And then, of course, I told you I added a qualifier for all the values before Amazon Prime and then all the values after Amazon Prime. Got it? Cool. So again, and then I did the actual quarter and year combination over here on the far left. All right, so these are our initial data. Let's go out and explore. Move everything around. Okay. Hopefully it hasn't logged me out. Probably did. Okay, yeah. Cross your fingers. Okay, here we go. This took a minute before class, so let's hope it works. Okay, good deal, good deal. So I've already uploaded our e-commerce file. You see it down here on my desktop. I'm just going to open it in SPSS on my desktop. I would always recommend you upload to the desktop and then find it in the desktop. And then the file type, right now it's just Excel, so we'll bring it in. And we're going to bring in sheet 1 with all of our data. Okay. Now remember the first step I told you I want to explore our data. So we're going to go to Analyze, Script is, Explore, and our dependent list is really our outcomes, right? The sales that we're looking at. So we're going to move both e-commerce and non-e-commerce to the dependent list. And the factor that we want to compare them on is, of course, pre-prime and prime time. The move period into the factor. And under plot, we want, yep, all of those. Good. I think everything, yep, display both the statistics and the plot and hit OK. So now, here's our results, right? So what we have is we have, it looks like, yeah, 21 time period or time, points in time before Amazon Prime, 13 time points after Amazon Prime. And now what we see is it breaks out the period itself. And remember, I told you earlier, I told you that the one was prime time, or I'm sorry, 2 was prime time and 1 was pre-prime. So I'll just do that real quick for you. So we clicked on the value labels and I'm going to set them. And hit OK. And in fact, I can redo that really quick just to show you what it looks like. With our first output done. All right, here we go. So now hopefully we can read a little bit easier. There it is, pre-prime, prime time. So what do we see? What do we see here? Well, before prime, e-commerce sales were on average across that time period about 3 million, right? These are all, or more than 3 million. This is in millions. So pretty high, but after prime, it went up to over almost 13.7 million on average. But again, this is over time, so it all smooths out. So what we have are the average values. We have skewness, kurtosis, median, right? Confidence intervals, a whole lot of information. But when you come down a little further, look at that. Look at that. E-commerce sales before prime and then e-commerce after prime are very different. We have a little bit of an outlier up here, and I'm sorry I can't zoom. SPSS doesn't allow us to zoom in, so if you have a small screen, it's probably even smaller. So, but they are very different in terms of box and whisker plots go. And the same thing with the non-e-commerce sales. Pre-prime were much higher than post-prime. Okay. So that's our first test. It's to really just look at our data, look at the summary level statistics, and see what we know, right? See what we know. So it's very easy to tell, right? Pre-prime, prime, all the different factors. But remember, we only have 34 data points. We only have 34 data points. So do we really think that they are different statistically? Because honestly, it's 13 and like 21 data points for both. So what we need to do is we need to do the Mann-Whitney test, because this compares 2 distinct groups on 1 outcome. So what we're going to do is, are e-commerce sales, the question we're asking ourselves, right? Our research question is, are e-commerce sales and non-e-commerce sales different before and after 2005, right? So is e-commerce actually different than before 2005 and after 2005? And then we can do the same thing for non-e-commerce sales. So that's our question, right? So the groups are pre-prime and post-prime, and our outcome is the actual sales. So really we have 2 questions here. 1, before and after 2005 for e-commerce. 2, before and after 2005 for non-e-commerce. Okay. So let's go and do that now. So we go up to Analyze. We're going to go to a new menu, one you haven't played with yet. It's called Non-Parametric Test. Non-parametric test is kind of far, it's pretty far down. SPSS doesn't alphabetize their menus, so it's kind of annoying. But so once you got to kind of look for it to find it. When you get here, remember we're comparing two independent samples. We're comparing two independent samples. There's no overlap, and so what we need to choose is non-parametric test for independent samples. Okay, we're going to select independent samples. And we want to automatically compare distributions across groups and click on fields, and remember our fields are going to be e-commerce sales and non-e-commerce sales. And our groups are going to be defined by the period, right? Pre-prime, post-prime. Move those over. And if you want to check out the settings, you can say automatically choose the test based on the data, or you can customize. We'll see what happens when we automatically choose the test. Hit run. It's running. There it goes. Hey, look at, okay, so here we go. Non-parametric test is where we start. Hey, look at that. It does what we wanted it to do. It pulls out the Mann-Whitney U-test, right? We're comparing two independent samples. And so we're looking at e-commerce sales across the period itself, the two different periods. So our Mann-Whitney U test statistic is 272. And what we see down here is that the significance test shows that our p-value is basically less than 0.000. And what that means is, yes, there is a statistical difference between these two groups in time. And you can see this by looking at the distribution along this frequency distribution that measures sales versus pre-prime and post-prime. Remember how we looked at the population pyramid a couple of weeks ago? Remember that? This is somewhat similar because non-parametric tests, they're not looking at averages at all. They're not calculating averages because averages are, outlier affected. Non-parametric tests usually look at the distribution and the median values, okay? So they're more focused on medians, not means. And so what we see when we look at this distribution is, yeah, e-commerce sales were way up after, during the post-prime period. So we can also look at non-e-commerce sales and see almost an exact flip, right? We already knew this, but we looked at the line charts. We saw how they converged and diverged. Well, we can see it here as well. And that difference is statistically significant, right? So let's look at, now that we kind of see what the test shows us, let's try to interpret that, okay? A big part of this class is writing up results and communicating results. So I wanted to show you at least how you should write this sort of thing up in a more formal way. So when we measured e-commerce sales during the pre-prime period, the median value is, again, what we report, not the average, of 3939, right? There we go. Sorry, I'm going to bring it back up because you're not going to see the median in this analysis. But where did we find the median already? When we explored the data, right? Remember how we explored the data? The median, 3939, okay? We found that the e-commerce sales during the pre-prime period differed significantly from prime time e-commerce sales, and we provide the median value for it. We provide the Mann-Whitney U statistic, right, as well as the Z-score. And the reason why we provide the Z-score is because the Z-score is used to determine what the R value is. Do you remember what the R value is? When we talked about it a couple weeks, maybe a week or two ago? Yeah.
That's something about the relationship between the independent and the dependent variables.
It is the close, very close. It's the amount of variance explained by the predictor variable, right? So this model, this non-parametric model, helps account for 82% of the variance, essentially. There is variance, as you can see. It's not a straight line. It's not, you know, all the way up and all the way down on either side, right? It's not a perfect model. However, 82% of the variance is assumed to be accounted for here. And so the Z-score is used because we divide the Z-score by the square root of the number of cases to get the R value. So if you divide 4.82 or 802, first let's do the square root of, always have to change my calculator back out. There we go. I think that's it. Yep. So, oops. Square root of 34 is 5.8309, right? So 4.802 divided by 5.8309, 0.82. You'll see that? Okay, cool. So I just want to prove it to you. I didn't make up the R value. So then this p-value in statistical tests, it is depending on what journal or what you're really trying to say. Most of the time, people use a p-value of less than 0.05 as acceptable for there to be assumed statistically different groups or outcomes. However, I've been one that always uses the lowest number if it's applicable. So even if it's like this, you can see that this asymptotic two-sided significance is less than 0.000. I'm not going to just put p as less than 0.01. I'm going to say it's less than 0.01, right? Because it is less than 0.01. You typically, again, less than 0.05, 0.01. If it's greater than 0.05, then we typically report the actual value. If there's not a statistically significant relationship, we say what the p-value is equivalent to. So in this case, again, because it's well below 0.01, 0.05, we would put it as what p is less than 0.01. And that means that the sales pre-prime and post-prime for e-commerce are statistically different. It's two very different groups, right? These groups are different from each other. I see some contemplative faces. What are y'all thinking about?
I'm just trying to connect my brain to when I see a p-value, what I want to translate that to in my brain is a confidence percentage. And so I'm trying to decide if I'm allowed to do that or if that's me making a wrong association.
Yeah, yep. So p-values are similar to confidence intervals because we usually talk about 95% confidence intervals, right? But here they're different. We are confident, yes, if it's less than 5% or 0.05, that they are statistically different, but it's not calculated in the same way that we calculate confidence intervals, Kara. Okay. Okay, now we have these results. Also, for that second, analysis that we did, where we looked at non-e-commerce sales, we looked at non-e-commerce sales. Who wants to fill in the blanks on how to explain this outcome? And again, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. You've got the outcome here minus one thing. What do we need to go grab? Or Beth?
Nope. No clue. This is the part of the statistics classes where I get overwhelmed with the letters. I'm gonna just have to make a crib sheet for this.
Hey, yeah, I got it. How about this? Why don't we let you, why don't I put y'all, don't want me to put y'all in a, what you call it, breakout room, thank you. Breakout room, let you work through this for about 15 minutes, or actually, let's just call it 20 minutes, okay? 20 minutes, we'll come back at the top of the hour, take a break if you need to, but you've got the data file in Canvas, right? You've got access to a Porto. Do what I did, and then when we come back, we'll talk through the results. How does that sound? I'm gonna put everybody in the same breakout room, okay? All right, there you go. Should have an invitation.
Thanks.
All right, see you up top.
Hey, Eric, if you're there, we were wondering if you could enable screen sharing.
Yeah. So Lord, who do I need to enable screen sharing for? All of you?
Yeah, because Mamta had a piece and then Kara had a piece. She wanted to share. Thank you.
Got it.
I'm gonna go back to the room. Thanks again.
No problem. I'm gonna jump in and give y'all. I have to jump. Hey y'all. So I'm gonna try. Who wants to share their screen?
I can.
You can or cannot.
No, it still says disabled when I try.
I do not. I don't have a way of letting you. In the normal room, I can. Yeah, in the normal room, I can make y'all co-host and allow you to share. But ooh, how about this? Oh, sorry. All right, now try.
Oh, Shazam. Oh, I don't know, maybe.
Uh-oh.
Are you guys looking at my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I'll pop in a few minutes. But my timing was off because of my watch is fast. But you really do have till the top of the hour. That's when I'll close it out. But I'll pop in like 10 minutes and check on y'all. Okay.
Okay. Oh,
Me.
Hey y'all, wanted to check in. How's it going?
So we walked through it, but we're kind of walking back through it and figuring out where are we finding P? Is the Z-score actually what we think it is? And we're trying to make it make sense.
Correct. Did you find the median?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Yep. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Make it make sense. I've still got my screen shared outside the room if you need to come back out and look at the prior, the last test that we did. So you can do that. Okay. All right. Don't forget to take a break. If y'all need an extra 10 minutes because you're only 7 minutes for the top of the hour, then yeah, we can make that happen too. Okay. All right. I'll be back. So, right back. Or Beth, you're still drinking coffee in the top left corner.
I would be unable to sleep if that were true.
Did you set a status? Yeah. I really should learn how to use Zoom better. Let's see.
I just used the reaction, and there's a little cup of coffee there, but I noticed that prompt has changed a lot since doing online grad school. It didn't used to show me a coffee mug. Now it does some.
there's actually quite a lot. If you click on the little three dots out beside it, for example, I just scarfed down.
And also, Eric, I think you might deserve one of these too, because Go Dogs, right? I thought about mentioning that to you. Not sure if that was a big deal to you or not.
Yeah. We are not a University of Arkansas fan household. We both went to the University of Mississippi, and they lost, I think. Who knows? I'll be honest with y'all. Yeah. I know my wife is LSU. That's her main team, and then we of course cheer for all of our institutions that have athletics, but yeah, not the University of Arkansas. We cheer against them. So. Oh yeah, they're playing Ole Miss this weekend. I already forgot. All right. Enough about if I can find it. Enough about that. There. Don't know if that worked or not, but all right. Who is going to take the lead and explaining the results for this test? All you have to do is fill in the blanks and read. It's really not that hard.
I can say the numbers that I wrote down.
You got to read the whole sentence.
Oh, great. Okay. That sounds fun. Okay, you guys, here we go. Non-e-commerce during the pre-prime period, the median was 1178.9.5.
Double checking.
Shoot. Wait a minute. Did I just grab a wrong number? I did.
I don't think we had the periods on ours when we worked through.
You're right. It wasn't there. And I just thought maybe it wasn't. I led us astray, everybody. My apologies.
What do you mean, the period?
Well, I'm going to pull it. Let me see if I can. Let me see what I did.
Let me give you control.
No. Oh, no. I don't need to share my screen. I just want to pop out and see.
Yep. Yeah.
When I ran the
period, the variable. Sorry, I'm slow.
Yeah, when I did analyze non-parametric tests, independent samples, right?
Yep.
And then I did, oh no, we're talking about the median one. Sorry, that's not there. That's analyze, descriptive, explore. I put e-commerce and non-e-commerce under the dependent list. And then I said label the cases by period.
That's what we did different. We left factor blank right there.
So factor should be period. Okay, that's what I did wrong. Oh shoot, then I guess all our numbers are going to be off, huh?
Do it right now, very quickly.
Oh,
very quickly.
Okay, I'm doing it very quickly.
No, all of your numbers will not be off, just the median.
Just
the
the
only one
median.
you pull. Yeah.
I see it. Yeah. Okie dokie.
This is why we do this in class.
Yeah.
Thanks whoever said give us breakout room time. I don't know who that was. I really don't. But great idea. High fives.
So then the median for e-commerce during, wait, are we doing non-e-commerce again?
Not non-e-commerce.
Okay. So pre-prime, it's 14,261. And post-prime, it's 8,222.
Right. Actually, you have to remember to put it all in there as it looks on your screen, Kara. So non-e-commerce sales during pre-prime with a median of.
I've got to come back to my screen over here. Sorry. Jeez. 14,261 differed significantly from prime time, whose median was
Doing great.
8,222.
What's the man witness U value?
What's the what? Oh, the
Man
right.
witness U value.
The U value was 0.000.
That's right.
The
Right here. Yep.
Oh, sorry. The Z-score is negative 4.837.
Okay.
The p-value is less than 0.01.
Perfect.
And the R-score is 0.829 or 0.83.
Perfect. Good job. So Kara, thank you. Thank you for giving us the scholastic response. Someone else, unmute yourself and give us the how to explain it to your child or your friend response. What did we learn from this? And take all the time you want. My beard's still gonna grow. I'm not gonna cut it off, so. I teach another class, and one of my students said, "I feel like I watch your beard growing during class because you sit there and you wait for us to chime in." I was like, "Yeah, that's all that happens." So, who wants to explain what we learned from this analysis? And think about it like if we're just sitting around drinking a fat thing. I mean, Kara explained it very well in her response. What does it really mean? R doesn't matter. It's R squared, so yeah, positive. And Rodney, if you want to text or type it, feel free to type out your layperson response. All right. Oh, well, you have audio. Awesome.
I'm still on the analyze descriptive statistics explore, and we went on the dependent list for the e-commerce and non-e-commerce. I was stuck at the factor list. Like we changed the period to the factor list.
Right.
Or because we had where else initially. So
I can give it a go if we're done.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
yeah.
Nay, we can't really hear you still. So I guess I would explain it as the sales from the pre-prime periods are different from the sales of Amazon after Prime.
This is an Amazon.
What?
This is non-e-commerce. Right here, remember? Non-e-commerce. You see that? We're not looking at e-commerce. We're looking at in-store sales.
Okay, well, either way,
There,
it's
yeah,
still
either way.
significantly different in the pre versus the post prime period. And I don't quite know what you means totally to say that part in words, but I don't think my family would care a whole lot.
You don't include that in your layperson response. What I would say the more important response here is, were they different? Were they significantly different? And what direction did that difference go? Up or down, right? Positive or negative? Which way did it go for non-e-commerce? Down. That's right. Ready? Go again.
Okay, these sales for non-e-commerce were significantly different, statistically different before and after Prime happened, and they statistically went down.
You don't have to say statistically went down, but you can say, like, you know, there's a statistically significant difference, and there was a significant drop in sales, you know, per quarter or per month, whatever it is. So I got a few, we've got Menta in the chat. Said I had a question when I did analyze descriptive, blah, 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 say standardized variables and variables to these scores. No, that is a different methodology. That's not at all what we're trying to do with this Z-score. We are trying to calculate the Z-score, not save our values as Z-scores. That's what happens when you save as. And you basically say, and I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to linear regression and why we do that. But those are not the same Z-scores that we're trying to calculate here. The Z-score is the standardized test statistic. Okay, y'all?
Thank you.
Okay,
no
yeah, and
problem.
we were actually kind of trying to make that make sense. And can you explain why that's the case, or that's what SPSS calls it?
The standardized test statistic, yeah, that's just what SPSS calls it. It's a standardized score, right? So that's what a Z-score is. You standardize your distribution through, you know, subtracting from the mean every score to get a standardized difference. Then you divide it by the square root and all that stuff, and that's how you calculate a Z-score. So yeah, a Z-score is synonymous with a standardized test statistic. Good question. But yeah, you don't need to save any values as standardized values. That's not necessary for this. Okay. Next test. We are talking about 3 or more groups now. We are not just limited to 2. So we're going to use the Kruskal-Wallis test. And like I said, this is similar to an ANOVA test that you'll learn about later on for parametric statistics, but this is the non-parametric function. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at sales and how they differ by quarter. Okay, we're going to look at non-e-commerce sales by quarter and e-commerce sales by quarter. Because remember, we've got the values for each quarter for every year for however many years, 10 or 11 years. Okay, sound good? So now the question, remember earlier, think about it before we even move forward. What did our chart look like? I can't really do it, but yeah, thank you for that. So remember, we saw something like that. I don't know. So yeah, we want to see, are they statistically significantly different? Are they significantly different from one quarter to the next? Okay, what first, second, third, or fourth? Comparing all 4 of them, really. Okay, ready? All right, we're going to use the Kruskal-Wallis test, go back out to SPSS, analyze non-parametric tests. Again, these are still independent samples. We're not looking at sales across, you know, the sale of the box of tissues in the fourth quarter of 2009 is not the same box of tissues in the third quarter of 2009, right? These are separate groups. So independent samples. And what we want to do is, again, have e-commerce and non-e-commerce, but this time we want to put Q, or quarter, whatever the quarter identification is, as the groups. Remember before, it was period, right? We compared pre-prime and post-prime, where this time we're comparing across 4 different quarters. So that's our group. Under settings, I've come under here and we select customize tests and select Kruskal-Wallis one-way ANOVA. Remember how I told you it's similar to the parametric analysis of variance? This is referencing ANOVA as well because it's very similar. Okay, so customize test, Kruskal-Wallis. Then we hit, go ahead. Want to be Kara? Raising your hand.
Well, I just Kara did it so well. My question is, when we do this again and we change these settings, do our previous reports disappear or do they stay?
When you say reports, you mean the output?
Yes.
No, watch. Hit run. It's a tree over here on the left.
Okay.
Explore, our Mann-Whitney, right? And then this is our Kruskal-Wallis right here. So, makes sense? So as long as you don't close this window, it's all going to be held within this one output. All right, here we go. Here we go. So we've got e-commerce sales, right? That's one group. And then we've got non-e-commerce sales across the quarters, okay? Across the quarters. I'm gonna pull back up my PowerPoint so we can talk through it. We don't have very much of an output for this. What we do have is a test statistic, which is the H statistic for this one. And of course, the total number of records, as well as a significance test, okay? Significance test. And then we also actually have a pretty nice chart that shows the distribution. Now remember, what did our chart look like with Mann-Whitney U? Remember how they were very different? We could see that difference here. Well, similar with box and whisker plots, usually if there's a difference, they're separated, right? Well, look at this output. Even though the fourth quarter always tended to, show a little bit of an increase, my summary of the analysis says a Kruskal-Wallis test showed that there was not a statistically significant difference in e-commerce sales between the fiscal year quarters. The H value of 0.66 and the P value of 0.882 was greater than 0.05, right? P value of 0.05 and below, or below 0.05, means it's just significant. Well, this is well above that, right? Median sales for quarter one were 40.42. Median sales for quarter two were 39.40, 45.53 for quarter three, and fourth quarter sales were a little bit higher at 60.34, but nonetheless, not statistically different. Okay. Hey, makes sense though? You see how we just did that really quick, like really easy? Remember,
yes.
this is go ahead.
Can you maybe hop over back to SPSS and help me find where you identified what the Q1 median was? Did you hover over the box and whisker plot or?
No, well, let's try it. Let's just double test it and see. It's not going to pop up there. Yeah, so you're right. We skipped a step. Sorry about that, y'all. If we go back to descriptive and explore, under factor list, put Q. And hit OK. Apologies. Please forgive me for that. So if you come down, median, Median. See it now? Sorry. Might be got a little excited. But yeah, just switch out period for quarter. Okay. That's for e-commerce. I'll give you only 10 minutes to do non-e-commerce. Okay? Go. We'll be back here at 38 after. I'll give you about 5-minute heads up.
just talked about, we just talked about the e-commerce sales, so now we're going to hop down to this non-e-commerce. And we're looking for the median in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Eric, we're just going over it a second time. And then the second half was non-parametric test and
Laura Beth, you want to try that again?
only if Carol will help me with the second half. A Kurzweil-Wallace test showed that there was not a significant difference in non-e-commerce sales between fiscal year quarters where H equals, oh my gosh, I lost it.
So much screen.
Oh, right, where H equals 3.719 and P is 0.293 with the median sales of
10596 for Q1, 11947 for Q2, 11033 for Q3, and 14362 for Q4.
Great, good job, y'all. Now, who wants to read it to me as a friend, colleague, family member? Or explain the results.
Is it saying that there is not a significant difference between the 4 quarters of a year for the non-e-commerce sales?
Not 4 quarters of the year, but just all of the quarters. When you look at Q1 for the 10 years versus Q2 for the full 10 years, there's not a difference in them in terms of summarizing and looking at them as a whole. Like the quarters themselves, there's not really a lot of difference between sales between each of the quarters. They don't differ that dramatically or significantly. Does that make sense, y'all? Cool. So even though we see the cat ears, I was waiting for someone to say something like this. Even though we see cat ears on that chart, what did we find out?
It's a ghost cat. It's not, like it's not that significant.
Let's go all the way back and explain this a little bit easier. Ready? There. So, because what if this was a flat line, let's just say non-e-commerce sales was a flat line and it did this dip and then up and then dip and then up, right? All the way across, and it was pretty flat. Then the sales from 1999 through 2007 would be the same for Q1 or Q2 or Q3, right? And then Q4 would be really different, right? But because the sales have continued to decline, it smooths out that difference between each of the years, and therefore the differences really in the quarters is kind of negated by the fact that the sales themselves have declined, right? Does that make sense? I mean, if you kind of, I hate to do this, I'll have to shake it up a little bit. If you do this and you turn your monitor on its side and you flatten out that line, you know Q4 is different. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Everybody is pricking their neck. You know Q4 is different, right? It is. It is generically different. However, because of the decline in sales, the median values and the way that we calculate whether or not there's differences from Q1 to Q2 to Q3 to Q4, well, yeah, there's differences in all of them because sales have generally declined. If if we had it again on a kind of a flat line and we just saw Q1 or Q4, Q1, Q3, Q4, then I think you'd probably see that Q4 is statistically different than the rest of them. But because over this time period, sales have dramatically declined, it's actually flushing out the differences in the quarters because all of them are declining at the same, almost at the same rate. So don't ever feel like you can't help explain something more generically or more generally by using a chart or a visual. Sometimes it helps, right? Because if all you did was use the data I gave you to get this, you don't see that trend line, right? So make sure we use what we learned a couple of weeks ago in the chart of the R or the R of the chart and trend out our data. Don't just rely on the plots that SPSS provides. Hey guys and gals. Good deal. Okay. Now we are going to do a Wilcox consigned rank where we're looking at the same group at pre and post event. Okay. So same group, e-commerce sales, looking at them pre 2005, post 2005. Okay. This one. There it is. And this time we're going to click on related samples. And here, all you have to do is, well, help me remember. E-commerce, yeah, e-commerce. All you have to do is put the two variables you want to look at in the test field. That's it. And then under settings, we want a Wilcoxon signed rank. I think it's automatic, but we'll just double check it. So again, we want to look at before and after 2005. So take out quarter, or it's probably not even there for you, and put period, right? Pre 2005, post 2005. And then we're going to run it. And so now our next set of outputs is this very last one. I don't know what happened.
And mine froze too.
What's that?
Mine also froze when I tried to run that.
Okay. No test created. Odd. Sorry, y'all. And again now. Okay. You know what? I have to pause this for me for a minute after. What I'll do is if this doesn't work. Should though. I may have to come back and do a little separate recording, but I'll let y'all know if I do once we figure it out.
Hey, Eric.
Hey.
I chose customized tests and then clicked on the box that says Wilcoxon matched pair signed rank.
Do you have that?
Yeah, under settings.
Oh, there it is. Duh. Okay.
Oh, but it gives
Sorry,
me
y'all.
an error that says it can only be performed on ordinal and continuous fields.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Yeah. So not period, right? Period is not what we want. I think it may be year. I'm trying to remember. Let me try this. Give me 1 second. No, I'm gonna figure this out a little bit more, y'all. Sorry, I may have not had the right data in here, but I'll handle that. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. I'll fix it. Get you taken care of. Okay, sorry. I may not have brought in the right file for that one. Most importantly, though, do you feel a little bit more comfortable now running this stuff on your own? At least for the Man Whitney U and Crystal Wallace. Do you feel more prepared maybe for your lab assignments this week?
Not necessarily, but when I review the, I guess the recording, it might help to an extent. But like I suggested earlier, if somebody wanted to work with me, then I will be open to it.
Cool. Well, this week's lab assignment, we're going to look at side effects. So not COVID, but just general side effects for flu-like symptoms. What happens is people, let me pull up this file for you. So this file, again, pretty small, right? You've got flu-like symptoms for Pfizer. So these are actually post-vaccination symptoms. So not COVID symptoms, but like, hey, guess what? People got shot, right? Folks who got the Pfizer vaccine, did y'all ever hear anything in the news about people having really bad side effects to the vaccination? Well, here's some data if you want to look at it. It's not very much data. It's a small sample, 20 people. That's all. What we looked at was we asked them to rate from a scale of 0 to 50, flu-like symptoms. So with 50 being like cough, sneezing, headache, fever, all of those and above, right? 0, I'm going to go run a marathon, right? That sort of thing. So this is an SPSS assignment because of the non-parametric test. What I want you to do is basically in SPSS, do your data labels. Like, remember how we did for the period tonight? We did pre-prime and post-prime. For the values for the vaccine, I want you to do labels for Pfizer and Moderna. Okay? Pretty much step 0. Make sure that the flu-like symptom variables here are both set to scale. And yes, you have a lab during fall break. Welcome to grad school. It is what it is, right? I work on the weekends, but hope you enjoy your fall break, everybody. When does that start?
On Monday.
When does it end?
On Sunday. So there's no class from the 11th through 17th.
Let me make sure.
I think you have this lab due on the 10th, actually.
You have what?
I said, I think you have the due date for the lab. I think maybe I'm wrong about that. I feel like something's due on the 10th.
Thank you. And I appreciate y'all letting me know when that happens, because this class was supposed to be on a Tuesday. I moved to Thursday. So this is going to be due on the 19th. Oh, discussion. Yeah. Ignore that. I'll fix that one as soon as we get off. I missed that one too. So, yep, this is due on the 12th.
The legislative review is due.
No, it's not due on the 10th. It's due on the 19th. Cool. Yeah, we haven't even talked about correlation yet. All right, let's just look at the calendar here. So you're saying, yeah, We don't meet next week. Who's sad about that? Don't react. Just don't. All right, good. I'm glad I didn't have it in the syllabus then. I tell you what, y'all. I miss Scott. Y'all get very nice breaks. Most institutions don't get that kind of a break. But anyway, thank you for letting me know about the discussion. Where are we? Here again. All right. What we want to do is make sure both of those flu-like symptom variables are set to scale and use non-parametric tests for independent samples to run the Mann-Whitney U for those two samples. And so what we want to do is look at Pfizer flu-like symptoms, right? Versus Moderna flu-like symptoms, okay? And then, of course, format the charts, right? And make them nice. And I want to say, I need to double check that. Yeah, okay. Part 2, can y'all see this okay? What else we want to do is look at ages of people and see if that impacts their flu-like symptoms when they receive the Pfizer vaccine. Only the Pfizer on this point, okay? So we're not comparing Pfizer to Moderna. We're looking at groups of the ages. So I've got the age group here, but you've got to label that in SPSS, and here's the values for the ages, okay? Make sense? Okay. Again, flu-like symptoms, that scale, Kruskal-Wallis test to look at differences across groups, just like we looked at across quarters. We're looking across age groups for the Pfizer vaccine, okay? Make sense? Okay. And of course, charts, that sort of thing. Include your chart, describe the findings. You know how to do that. You've done it a couple of times, right? Feel free to R&D that PowerPoint that we looked at tonight. You know what R&D means, right?
No, not in your terms.
Sarah, what does it mean? She's laughing, sorry.
I'm just making up things, research and discovery.
No, not even close. No.
Read and
Samantha or Roger?
discuss.
Read and discuss? Nope, and also not even close. Putting way too much effort into it. Manta and Robson, y'all want to go? Manta,
Yes.
you want to try and
No. I also think it's research and development, but you already said it's not.
it takes way too much time after rip off and duplicate. So I gave you exactly how to write these things up, okay? Use it. Okay, then of course, describe them as if you were talking to your family. Practice that, y'all, because if you saw me walking down the street and you just figured out something really awesome, you told me like, Eric, I did blah, 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 and the H value was blah, 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 and the significance level was P, blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, look, just, I haven't even had coffee yet. Like, tell me what you're really trying to say. So practice that, right? Because that is exactly where these skills translate into the real world half the time. And of course, provide other ideas for analyzing these data. And of course, your learning outcomes are all broken out down here. Notice that in this one, doing these non-parametric tests are where the majority of your points are going to come from, okay? For the art of the chart of the art, the majority of the points were producing the charts, right? So in case you haven't noticed, each week I shift the point values amongst these different learning outcomes because I'm really trying to focus on what's important, right? So anyway, so there you go. Kruskal Wallace, Maine Whitney U. You've got the data up here on the top. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, how long does it take before your brain just absorbs which test statistic belongs with which test?
So, okay, good question, Kara. The Mann-Whitney test is called the Mann-Whitney U, and I tend to say Mann-Whitney U all in one word, and that's how I know it's the U statistic, right?
Mhm.
But are you really saying like I'm trying to determine if there are differences between two groups that are independent of one another, so I need to use the Mann-Whitney U? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. It's the first part.
Oh.
Like that's gonna,
The
I
first-
assume at some point that becomes like just something that your brain automatically, you're like, oh yeah, man, Whitney U, Claxon Whisker H or whatever it's called.
Well, let me tell you